So we're going to hop right into the first film. Before we do, there is a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're viewing on YouTube, by all means, throw any questions in there. So we're going to show the films. Mark and I are going to come back, chat a little bit about what we thought. But if you have any comments throughout, please feel free to post in there. We'll try to bring in as many of those as we can as well. Our first film is called Everett Syndrome. According to the description, it's a motive tale that turns the simple, familiar game of hide and seek on its head. It's by Spanish director and 2014 Quantum Shorts finalist Javier Garcia. He's a physicist with a master's degree in particles and gravitation and currently a professor at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. He's also directed several short films and music videos for local rock bands. So we're going to throw that one up and let's see what we think of Everett Syndrome. All right. So, tell me, Mark, what'd you think?
Wow, that was very interesting. It was very interesting. Like right from the very beginning, we had that little unusual shot of a grid that the camera passed through. That was kind of a tip off for me that something unusual is going to happen. Is he in a virtual reality? I don't know what that grid was, but I love how they just passed through it and didn't explain it, because it really made me think, okay, what is this environment? I also love the way the camera stayed behind him most of the time. We never saw his full face for the first time until we saw his reflection in the mirror. And
Yeah.
the trope in cinema is whenever you use a mirror to see a character's full face, the idea of a reflection refers to their own self-thought and what's going through their minds, right?
Okay.
So that kind of tipped me off that this is some kind of mental exercise. I soon began to believe that there was no Sophia and that he was looking for something else. Or maybe it was a memory of a lost child. And I kind of got that impression when his wife came home and gave him a big hug because he's still looking for the long gone Sophia. But and also the little jarring end where you actually saw Sophia for a second.
Right.
I go, what was that? He might be imagining things, but is he really? Maybe she really is there in spiritual form.
No, it leaves that open. I do like that this one kind of stands without the quantum mechanics interpretation.
Yeah.
But when I see the mirror, I think of something a little different. Which is admittedly I'm primed by the title, which is Everett Syndrome, which is a reference to Hugh Everett's theory of the many worlds of quantum mechanics, which basically states that in quantum mechanics, when an event occurs, basically it wipes out the probability of any other event occurring. That's one interpretation. Everett's interpretation is that every event occurs in a separate parallel universe. So in this, what the mirror might symbolize might be that he's potentially interacting with some of these parallel universes where Sophia is either still alive, if she never existed at all, perhaps where she does exist, and some part of his brain is being linked to this other universe. And as a syndrome, it's, a lot of times is seen in different movies as, kind of like almost a superpower, but here it's really seen as like a sickness.
Yeah. Yeah, there certainly seemed to be some suggestion of mental illness there, right? But the other kind of, quantum perspective on the mirror for me was seeing him in 3 dimensions from the side, and then seeing him in 2 dimensions in his reflection on the mirror. So you have this interdimensional suggestion taking place, which also might explain the presence of Sophia at the end.
Yeah, Sophia exists if you're able to look at a higher dimensional space, which is one possible way to look at that kind of many worlds interpretation, if we could access or view that other dimension. This is, got to put on my scientist hat for a second, this is a perfectly self-consistent interpretation. There's also consistent interpretations that don't need multiple universes, but it's something that is consistent with kind of the mathematics of quantum mechanics.
Hmm.
Benjamin's noting in the chat that Sophia is synonymous with wisdom in Greek.
Oh,
Um, which could be. I'm actually curious. I'd be curious to know if that was an intentional link at all by the filmmaker. So I do have one quote from the filmmaker as well. Javier Garcia says, "I remember that entering university to study physics was one of the most exciting moments of my life. Years later, I'm still fascinated by the same thing. Why can nature be explained by mathematics? I do not think we will ever get an answer, and maybe that is what keeps me captivated." Which I
well,
like in this sense, yeah.
well, hearing him say that, it makes me think a little bit more deeply about the title, or
Mhm.
not the title, but the game, hide and seek. Right?
Okay.
It's basically something that most researchers engage in professionally, right? And not that they're necessarily hiding, but they certainly are seeking things that are hidden.
Hmm.
And the discovery of new knowledge is the found you, you know, moment, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that's got me sad because if then the ending implies that knowledge doesn't exist.
But I think it does when you see her at the very end. He just hasn't found her yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, we gotta keep on looking.